Hey guys, so here is part 2 of the 5.2 day 2 notes. We're going to now combine the idea of finding degree and leading coefficient, multiplicity, our zeros, all that information so we can sketch the graph of polynomial function. Now before we sketch, I do want to kind of just summarize some of the information we have learned so far, kind of in 5.2. Okay, let's talk about finding the degree of a polynomial function. Now if it's in standard form, remember standard form is going to be like y equals ax to the n plus bx to the n minus 1 plus dot 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 dot, and then whatever your constant term is. Okay, so basically you look for the largest exponent, so make sure you put the polynomial in standard form and look for the largest exponent. Now to find the degree of a polynomial when it's in factored form, that's when we add the exponents, okay? So kind of make sure you know the difference between those two. Now to find the zeros, roots, x-intercept solutions, remember those are all mean the same thing. Basically they're points on the x-axis, and to find them you set the factors equal to 0 and solve for x. Now multiplicity, to find this you just look at the exponent on the factor. And remember when we have an even multiplicity, so that means the number is even, we bounce, so that's what we call like the graph characteristic. For an odd multiplicity, we cross the x-axis, okay? Okay, now let's apply all this information to sketching. So make sure if you need to, you can pause the video and take these notes down. Same thing here, you can pause the video, take these notes down. Go ahead if you need to, pause the video to take these notes down. Okay, let's get to it. Okay, so let's look at the first one. We have f of x equals 2 times x minus 1 times x plus 3 times x minus 2. So remember, to find the degree, notice we are in factored form. So it's always good to know what is factored form. Okay, so notice that on each of these, the exponent is 1. So to find the degree, we do 1 plus 1 plus 1, which means we get 3. And notice 3 is an odd number. Okay. What's the leading coefficient? Well, the leading coefficient is going to be the number that is in front of the first set of parentheses. So that is a 2. That's positive. Now let's think about the end behavior, meaning what happens to our arrows. When we have an odd and positive, remember, think about a linear. That means we start down first on the left-hand side, and then we go up. Okay. Now let's talk about the zeros and their multiplicity. So remember, to find zeros, we set the factors equal to 0. So I have x minus 1 equals 0, and then I have x plus 3, and then x minus 2. So I solve, and I get x equals 1, x equals negative 3, and x equals 2. Now let's talk about the multiplicity. Okay? So on each of them, look at the exponents. On each factor, the exponent is 1. So I have 1, 1, and 1. So that means that each of these we're going to cross, okay, because the multiplicity is odd. Okay. Okay, so now let's go ahead, we're going to apply this and sketch our graph. We're going to cross for all 3 of these. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we're going to plot the x-intercepts. So that we're going to have 1, negative 3, and 2. So make sure you plot these points correctly. Okay, now let's do the arrows of our end behavior. So I'm going to have 1 that goes down, 1 that goes up. Now let's connect everything. So we're going to cross at each of these. So when I cross, that means I go through the x-intercept. Now you're going to see that I'm going to create a little hump here. Now it doesn't matter how high or low it is, because the thing is we're drawing a sketch. Remember, a sketch is not going to be exactly what the graph is going to look like. The most important things to know is that we have to have the right end behavior, the right x-intercepts, and that we either cross or bounce correctly on each of those, okay? So I do this, doesn't matter how high or low I make it, and then I connect the other. Okay? Okay, go ahead. I would like you to pause the video and try the next one on your own. Okay, let's see what you got. So first, let's figure out the degree. So remember, we add the exponents. So on x minus 1, the exponent is 1. X minus 5, the exponent is 1. So I do 2 plus 1 plus 1, and that gives me 4. That's an even number. Now, notice what our leading coefficient is here. I have a negative. Now, you might not see a number, but that really represents 1. So I have a negative 1. That is negative. Now, when I have an even negative, think about a quadratic. Which way do the arrows face? They both face down. Remember, with evens, the arrows both face the same way. With odds, they face different ways. Okay, now let's figure out. We're going to do our X intercepts. So I do X plus 3, then I have X minus 1. And make sure you set them equal to 0 to solve. And X minus 5. Okay, so I get X equals negative 3, X equals 1, and X equals 5. Let's figure out the multiplicity. Okay, on the factor of X plus 3, notice we have a exponent of 2, so that's my multiplicity. On the factor of X minus 1, the multiplicity, or the exponent is 1, so my multiplicity is 1. And then on the factor x minus 5, the exponent is 1, so that's my multiplicity. So remember, we bounce on even multiplicities, and we cross on odd multiplicities. Okay, now I have all this information. I'm going to go ahead and plot my points. I'm going to plot the x-intercepts first. I have negative 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, now my arrows, so I have both down, right? So at negative 3, I'm going to bounce. So when I bounce, that means I'm going to hit the x-intercept or x value, or that point, and then come right back down. Now through the 1 and 5, we're just going to go through. So I go through x equals 1 and through x equals 5 and come right back down. And remember, as I said, these humps here, it doesn't really matter how high or low you make them. The only things that are important is that you have the right end behavior and that you plot the x-intercepts correctly, or you have the correct x-intercepts and you bounce or cross correctly at those points. Okay? Okay, if you have any questions, make sure you contact me and make sure you work on the homework assignment. I'll see you guys later.